Hi, I'm Dr. April Dobson, and I just wanted to take some time on this Thursday to go live to encourage you, anyone who's watching this, anyone who sees this after the live ends, to say yes. Say yes to pursuing your dreams, say yes to fulfilling your purpose. And I just want to share just a story with you, and I can probably think of countless stories that I can share. But I spent 11 years in the United States Air Force. And during my career in the Air Force, I was intel for the majority of my career. And during my career, I took a special duty assignment in recruiting, and it was when I discovered my, passion and purpose for helping people related to the HR field. And I made a decision that whenever I left the Air Force, whenever that occurred, I was going to pivot and switch professions. Now, I want to take a moment and pause here because one of the things that I can say that I can appreciate the fact that I made a pivot after I left the Air Force and that I switched careers. But I want to highlight one of the things that I did that, reflecting back on it, I'm pretty sure a lot of people are doing. And that's saying that there is a futuristic time that you need to make a pivot, that you need to make a change, and you'll do it later. And I know for me, I made that decision midway through my career, but I didn't make the change until I left the Air Force. And so I know that there may be countless things because I've heard stories from people. I've heard people say, when I retire, when my kids graduate, I'll change careers. And they name these things, right? And so there may be some things that you're thinking about in your life that you want to be the perfect time, that you want to, ensure that you've had certain achievements before you make the pivot to doing what you love. And I just really encourage you that you don't delay in taking the time to take those steps to transition into what you've been dreaming about, to transition into what you love. Because I think making those pivotal moments to change and do something that you're dreaming about is a building block, and it has a second and third order of effect. There's a domino effect that occurs from either making the change, making the pivot, making the shift, or not making the shift. And I think about all of the things that sort of just fell in place and that occurred for me when I decided to make the change. So I look at all of the different steps that I've made, all of the different things that happened in my career that allowed me to spring forward, that happened as a result of making that pivot. So if you have some things that you're thinking about and you're thinking about, okay, I'll just wait, I'll make a delay, think about all of the impact that it has on your life. Are you someone who has to really motivate yourself to get out of the bed on weekdays because you're not really doing what you love? Are you someone who are really making changes for your company, your organization, your corporation, and you're seeing the return of, revenue for your company? You're seeing your company grow their clients. They're able to grow, their bottom line, but yet you're leaving unfulfilled. Are you seeing that there is a, strain on your family, on your friendships, on your relationships, because you're really not doing what you love, and you're doing something, and I'm going to say it, you're doing something in some cases that you even hate because you feel that you need to do that because that's something that you feel pays the bills, or, it's sustaining, but really it's taking away from the essence of who you are. It's taking away, the joy level that you have. It's taking away from what you really, truly desire to do. And there's a level of stress that comes with that. That's unnecessary when you're doing something that you don't enjoy. I think it's really important to, take a moment and really sit with yourself and reflect. What is it that you've been really hoping to do? What is it that you've been dreaming to do? What have you been desiring to do that you just haven't done yet? Is it a business that you've been wanting to start? Is it switching to a different industry to do something totally different from what you've done? I've interviewed countless people on my talk show, Purpose Today, with Dr. April Dobson, and I've heard so many examples about people who were doing things that either they once loved and then they got to the point that they didn't love it anymore, or they were doing something and they were left unfulfilled. And so in many cases, some of the people chose to make a pivot. They made a decision consciously to, pivot to something else. But there are a lot of cases that some of them didn't have the luxury of, deciding, hey, I'm going to pivot. I'm going to switch to something that I love. Some of them had experiences that they were laid off from their job. There were people who were terminated from their job. And then they were forced to make that pivot that they could have made when they were thinking about it and when they were dreaming about it. Many of you know that I recently took a cruise, and it was an amazing cruise that I took with my mom and my sister. It was phenomenal. And I met someone on that cruise who was in a career in England. He was a butler. And, while there may have been some things that he really didn't like and that he didn't appreciate, it wasn't until he was faced with something that was really less than desirable. He had to boil bottles of water and put them in a bathtub. And for him, that was the straw that broke the camel's back for him to make a pivot. And he made a pivot to do something that he absolutely loved. Would he have maybe done that had he not had to heat the bottles of water and put them in a bathtub and transport them to the bathtub? I don't know. Probably not. But there's countless stories that I could tell you of people who I've encountered, people who I have coached, people who I have read stories about, who were doing something that they felt that they needed to transition, but for whatever reason, they made excuses. They chose not to do it. And I think you owe it to yourself. You owe it to yourself to pursue your purpose. You owe it to yourself to do what you love. You owe it to yourself to have a life that is what you've been dreaming about. And I do believe that just as we build our lives, we build our careers. We have to build a career or the business that we're dreaming about. So if you've got something that you've been dreaming about, you would love to make a pivot, you're not really quite sure of where to start, what steps to start first, I encourage you, send an email to our team. We are very happy to talk with you, to talk through, the process of pivoting. Of course, all of the consultations are, free to clients to have a free consultation. You're not required or obligated to enter a contract just because you called or you inquired. For me, I love helping people to discover their purpose, to pursue their purpose, to do what it is that they've been dreaming about. And I think that every day that you delay in doing what you're dreaming about and doing what you love, you're creating a greater gap that's unnecessary to living the life that you deserve, living the life that you should be living. And I think that when you are doing what you love, it's evident. It's evident in what you do. It's evident in how you show up. It's evident when people see how you are showing up, and it really makes a difference. So I encourage you to say yes to fulfilling every dream that you have, the desires that you have in your heart. I encourage you to say yes to fulfilling your purpose and doing what you're destined to do. So thank you so much for taking this time to view this live. I look forward to hearing from you, and you can send an email to admin@purposetoday.com, and my team and I would be happy to assist you in developing a plan to start working towards fulfilling your purpose, achieving your dreams, fulfilling everything that's in your heart. So thank you so much. Look forward to seeing you. Be purposeful today and every day.